A group of residents from the Holland Gardens section of the county, who are among 82 people who signed a petition, asked the commission to change the location of its voting precinct or to establish an additional precinct in the area. City Councilman Louis Golson, representing the Holland Gardens section, told the commission some residents who live near the precinct can vote at the local community center, while others who also live close to the community center must travel to the Montgomery City Hall to vote. Commission Chairman Bill Joseph said the law prevents the commission from taking action on their request at this time. Bill, why?
Well, first, the law says that we must change any voting place 90 days before an election, so that means we cannot do it before November. In addition, what brought this about was the drawing of the district lines for the House of Representatives, State House of Representatives, by the federal court, and it divided a community. And it is true that people living within sight of the Highland Garden Community Center are in another House district and therefore in another precinct and must vote in that precinct. If we, in the future, do change this situation, we cannot change they cannot vote in the Highland Garden Community Center, but we are hopeful that we can possibly work out something where they can vote in another place a little closer to their home, at any rate.
Had this request been made sooner, could you probably made a change in time for the November election?
Well, it had to meet the 90-day, and it is possible we could have, if we could have found a suitable place for them to vote, yeah.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
This is George Mitchell, WSFA TV News, reporting live from the Montgomery County Courthouse.
This is Clark Edwards, WSFA Television News. I'm coming to you live from the main rail switching yard about 5 miles north of Montgomery on North McDonough Street. There has been a train derailment here earlier this morning. 3 cars were involved. 2 are filled with propane. 1 had a minor leak in it. The train car with the minor leak has now been repaired. There are train crew repair teams on the scene right now, as well as Montgomery Fire Department units. These fire department units arrived at the scene shortly after the train derailment at about 9:30 this morning, when 3 cars of the West Alabama Rail Train Company left the tracks because the earth and old railroad ties, as we were told by the yardmaster, gave way after being soaked by the heavy rainfall last night. Once again, there is no danger to anyone at the scene or in the north side of the city of Montgomery due to this train derailment. The carriage has come out from under 2 of the cars. The car on its side, the dark red car, is the car that contains the propane gas and is the car that was leaking at one time. Right now, there is no danger. Firemen are on the scene. This is Clark Edwards, WSFA TV News, live from North McDonough Street.
As we mentioned in an earlier report, a train derailment occurred at about 9:20 this morning, about 4 miles north of Montgomery at the Western of Alabama Railroad switching yard. No injuries occurred, but as you can see, about 3 cars were involved in the wreckage here. The one in the back there, the long one, had some propane gas in it, but we understand the leak was stopped. It was a vapor leak, a small vapor leak, and everything is under control at this point. We're talking here with Mr. H.S. Sanders and Mr. Randy White. Mr. Sanders, can you tell us the possible cause of the derailment?
The cause is under investigation.
We understand that there's some rain last night may have caused some slippage in the cross ties. Is that correct?
That's possible.
Tell us about the cleanup operation. When do you plan to start cleaning up the wreckage?
Well, the Department of Transportation has just released the car to us and says that it's safe to re-rail and pick up with a wrecker. And that's what we intend to do as soon as all the wrecker people come on duty.
A U.S. government official was down to investigate the wreckage. And
that's true.
Mr. White, can you tell us about other derailments that have, how many do you have, say, in a year's time like this?
Well, this is unusual derailment. We very seldom have one of this kind. This is about the second one this year in this yard.
All right, is this a serious situation when you have a lot of rain and your cross ties slip? Are the rails in poor condition at this time?
Yes, when you have a lot of rain in a yard where you got old timber, the chances of a derailment are more so than usual.
Okay. Thank you for talking with us. That's the situation now at about 4 miles north of Montgomery at the Western of Alabama Railroad switching yard. We're at North McDonough Street. No injuries occurred in this wreck, but 3 cars are involved, and there's some mess out there. There is no leak involved in the far rear car. There was a vapor leak when the wreckage occurred, but there is a cleanup operation underway at this very moment. This is Lee Webb with a live mini-cam report 4 miles north of Montgomery on North McDonough Street.
How's that?
Yeah, give me some more stuff from out there at the scene from up there. That's a little different angle.
Got this guy lighting a cigarette right there by it. Dick, are you still recording? Okay, he's giving you shots of the bad ballasting right now.
I'm gonna go get something to eat and come back and relieve 46 so we can catch that 10-4. TV's got it too. 10-4, you want us to
10-4. Say again? No. There are firemen here, but no fire chief. We have an officer on the scene, but no chief.
Have the sales tax and income tax hit all-time highs in Alabama?
Oh yes, Clark, considerably higher than in previous years. In fact, the gross collections for the first 11 months this year are approximately 12.2% higher than any other year.
Why is this?
You mean why is the income tax?
What is this an indication of?
Well, to me it indicates that the economy is good, that an awful lot of people are working in the state of Alabama, hence the increase in income tax collections, and obviously they're spending money because the sales tax collections are considerably higher too, so this would indicate to me that the economy is good in the state of Alabama.
Does this also reflect growth in industry?
Oh yes, very definitely. When I said economy, I should have expounded a little more, but definitely an increase in the growth of industry, because this means more people working, more taxes from industry and business, so it all contributes to the fact that the collections are much higher.
We hear a lot of talk about Sun Belt and in the political arena, but one of the phases of that discussion is that people are coming south. Could this be one of the first indicators that maybe there is a Sun Belt and that the industry is coming south?
Well, possibly so. The more industry we get, of course, is an indication that industry is moving into the south more, and of course we like that.
One of the biggest spending as far as sales tax seasons is coming up this fall, once we get past return to school and that kind of thing with the holiday season. Would you speculate as to what it looks like for the upcoming season?
Well, you mean for possibly the last quarter
Right.
of the year? Well, I would think that the increase is going to continue. Business is good. And as we said before, people are spending money, so that's going to reflect in the increased sales tax, and I look for it to continue.
Well, we have not had any problems. The faculty and the students have cooperated. We have all of Capitol Heights' faculty, and the Capitol Heights principal is my assistant, and we have one school, with one operation.
I understand that this is not the first time that you've had this number of students.
No, we have 1,060 students, and about 5 years ago we had about that enrollment.
What has been the biggest adjustment from the administration standpoint with this many kids?
The biggest adjustment we've had to make is that we've had 20 teachers without any materials. Everything that was destroyed at Capitol Heights, that's been the biggest adjustment, is getting materials and for those 20 teachers.
How about getting the kids to the school? Has this presented any type of difficult situation?
No, that's sort of improving every day. We have 2 county buses that bring the Montgomery East children, and we have a special going through Capitol Heights and a special going through Highland Gardens.
How extensively are the portable classrooms being used, and what are they being used for?
All right, we have 6 portable houses, and they're being used by 4 regular classrooms, and the children in there half a day, and then the other half a day they're in the building. We have 4 trailers, and they're being used by small classes, remedial reading or special ed.
Were these brought in after the new students arrived?
But some of them were brought in before they got here. We've been working on them for about 2 weeks.
Has this caused any overcrowding in the classrooms?
No, most of our classes range from about 25 to 28.
Well, Montgomery, I think, is pretty well adapted to it. We started here some 2 years ago, and in my mind, it's been very successful, with one exception. The accident record has been fine. We've had no trouble along that line. The only thing I object to is, for some reason, the public does not seem to respond to it to the extent that we would like them to, not taking full advantage of it. As far as the controversy is concerned, it's over in Montgomery. There are at least 5 major cities in the state that have adopted this ordinance. And going on the national scene, it was still and has been debated quite heavily for the last 4 to 5 years, and is still being as late as 2 weeks ago. I kind of think it's going to take national action to get it universally across the country.
Nationwide, what is the objection to turning right on red?
Well, when you get right down to it, you're talking about a type of restriction that you're relying on giving the motorist a permissive type thing and allowing him to use his judgment And some people do not seem to think you can trust the motorist's judgment, that you should regiment him or be more tight, and we just happen to think the other way. As I say, it's worked very well here in the other cities in Alabama.
I understand that nationally there appears to be a division between proponents and opponents on the east and west coast over the issue.
Very definitely. This measure originated on the West Coast and was readily accepted out there, and we caught on to it. For example, I'd like to say Montgomery was the first in the state. It would happen to be the second by 6 months, but the people on the East Coast adhere to a more rigid control. They do not seem to want to give the motorist this flexibility of allowing to use his own judgment as contrasted to what is done on the West Coast. And for that reason, that's the reason the controversy or argument is still in effect. The Midwest, I might add, seems to go along with the West Coast and South.
The big concern over the pollution in the Coosa River in Georgia is with PCBs. These are polychlorinated biphenyls.
What does that mean?
Well, this is actually an inert plastic derivative type product. For years it was confused with DDT on a lot of our pesticide analyses, but it was found out that it was a separate type chemical. Exactly what it means, probably we don't know just yet.
Is there any chance that it is rendering the fish in the Coosa River in Alabama inedible?
Well, there are chances that some of the fish in Alabama, in the Coosa River, do have tolerances of PCBs that are higher than approved by FDA, yes.
How do you know this?
Well, we know this because we have taken some samples of fish from the Coosa River, and some of these have shown up in our analyses to exceed the 5 part per million level that's set by the FDA.
The people generally don't know about this particular problem with the Coosa River fish. How far down does it go toward Montgomery?
Well, we're not exactly sure how far down it goes. We've taken some samples in Weiss Reservoir, and of course the samples that we have right now, we haven't gotten back all of our analyses from our latest sampling there, so we don't know exactly how far down it does extend.
Would you then advise people in Alabama not to eat fish from the waters of the Coosa?
Well, I can't make this advisory at the present time because, for one thing, we in the Department of Conservation don't really know what effect the PCBs would have on human consumption. This is a public health problem. When the analyses are returned from our fish samples, if they do turn up to be in excess of what FDA recommends, and if the health department recommends that these not be eaten by people who catch them, or that commercial fishing be closed in that area, then of course we will be at liberty to promulgate regulations to close the area to commercial fishing, and then to advise people not to eat the fish that they catch from this area.
But at this time you can't also guarantee that the fish are safe?
No, we can't. We certainly cannot. We do know that there are some fish that are in the Coosa River in that area which do exceed the FDA limits for PCBs.
Let's go get him! That was good job. You can't stop him. He's a good guy. Got his hands on the tip. Right hand's moving on. Hands on the tip.
Labor Day means an extra long weekend for many Alabamians. Plus, it means an extra holiday for many school children before the rigors of classwork and homework go into full swing. Unfortunately, it can also mean tragedy for some, with the probability of accidents and deaths on Alabama's highways on the increase. In addition, it means a busy weekend for Alabama law enforcement agencies. And with me today is a representative of one of those agencies, Sergeant Roy Smith of the Alabama State Troopers. Sergeant Smith, at this time, where does the weekend accidental death count stand?
As of 10 a.m. today, we'd had 177 accidents, 64 injuries, and 4 fatalities on the rural highways of the state of Alabama.
What are the main causes of traffic accidents?
Well, they continue to be inattention of the driver, the drunk driver, driving while intoxicated, and speed continues to be our 3 major causes of accidents.
Out of those 3, what would you say is the biggest problem?
Well, of course, there's more speeding violations than anything else, but the most dangerous is the drunk driver because of the damage he does and the people he kills.
What are the state troopers and other law enforcement agencies doing this weekend to help combat this?
Off days were canceled for all members of the department. Everyone is working. All the aircraft are in the air, the fixed wing craft, 4 fixed wing craft, 4 of the helicopters. Unmarked cars, we have the unmarked car detail that is on the roads of the state of Alabama. And in fact, some of those units are right here in the Montgomery area, and they tell me that they have been just cleaning up on the speeders out there.
What is the most dangerous time of the Labor Day weekend?
Well, of course, the most dangerous time was the time Friday afternoon, but really the really critical time will start this afternoon about 4 o'clock when everyone is trying to get back home from 4 o'clock until midnight or even around 2 o'clock the following morning.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. There are still a number of hours left in the Labor Day weekend, and officials like Sergeant Smith are hoping that by driving carefully and slowly, Alabamians and visiting motorists will make those hours safe ones. Live from I-65 north of Montgomery, Bill Weaver, WSFA TV News.
Yes, 2 Thomaston police officers were shot at by 2 black males this morning at approximately 1 a.m. State Trooper Gibson and Wilcox County Sheriff got into a running gun battle with the 2 black males, who later abandoned their car over in Wilcox County and fled into the woods. State prison tracking dogs were brought in to assist in tracking them, and later this morning, one of the dogs was found shot to death with a high-powered rifle. State Trooper tactical teams from Montgomery, Evergreen, and Tuscaloosa are now on the scene searching for the suspects.
So the search is still continuing in the woods?
Yes, it's still continuing in that area in the woods at this time.
Well, of course, we're presenting a balanced budget to the council, and in our proposal, we're just saying to the people of the city of Montgomery that we're going to do in city government what they've done at home. We're going to live within the budget.
Does this mean any kind of a tax hike?
No. I pay all the taxes I want to pay.
How about pay raises for city employees?
We gave the city employees a $400 pay increase per employee based on a 40-hour week. In addition to that, we gave them a merit increase, which amounts to about 5% of the total pay.
Will this year's budget help clear up a little bit more of the city's bonded indebtedness?
Oh, yeah. The bonded indebtedness of the city is going to level out now and be very level and very steady for many years to come. We are paying off, and they call it turning some of the notes. We're turning some that have been paying on for many years. Of course, we didn't do that. The years are just running out. But we're managing the bonded indebtedness, I think, in a very responsible manner.
Many cities are finding out that pension payments for their employees are breaking them and causing them trouble. Is that the case in Montgomery, or does it look like that may be a problem in the future?
I think that the pension program in the city of Montgomery right now is very fiscally sound, but we'd be very naive not to say that it isn't going to portend some problems for the future. I think that the pension plan, as well as the insurance program and the total package of benefits for city employees needs to be looked at. And with city employees being involved in it as well as us, we are looking for better ways to do the job, and this would be one way.
Are you expecting a smooth budget session?
Oh, well, Yes, because it's because you know if you got 10 pounds of peas and you got a 10-pound bag, you know, you can't do much with it except to put it in there. You got 11 pounds of peas, you have a little trouble. And we went back in the budget this year and cut out several items, some items which I really feel were needed.
What are some of those items?
Well, we removed a pumper from the fire department's budget for nearly $100,000, in fact a little more. That's one of the things we cut out in order to give the people a pay raise. We cut out some other things, I think, in recreation, and we cut ourselves pretty thin in the maintenance department so far as labor is concerned. But we had to do those things in order to live within our budget and give our people a pay increase. As I've said on many occasions, the employees of the city of Montgomery are our greatest resource. You don't have any maintenance department or any garbage department until the people show up to get the job done. So it's very important for us to help them meet their needs, but at the same time keep a balanced budget and not raise the taxes on our people, and yet still deliver the goods and services. And that's a real feat, and I want to say that we're doing it.
Do you think that the rest of the council is going to go for a balanced budget?
Oh, yes, I'm sure they are. In fact, the law requires it. Act 618 that we helped to write and push through the legislature, and, well, the legislature, of course, wrote it and passed it. We had some input into it. But in that law, we said that the mayor must present a balanced budget by a particular date. The council must accept that budget, and then they must make it balanced. If they change it one way or the other, they got to adjust it one way or the other. So the people of the city of Montgomery, by the change in the form of government, are going to always have a balanced budget by law.
Well, being a working man, I think Labor Day is really great because you're getting a legal day off from the government, and it's a holiday, and it just makes you appreciate how much you do all year long, and then you're recognized with a day off for yourself, and you get to work, you know, and you have a free day.
What do you think about some stores remaining open on Labor Day?
For myself, personally, I don't like it. I think it's really gotten too commercialized right now, and I like it myself being a holiday, and that's what I think it should be, not everybody staying open like everybody's doing just to make the money. It's a legal holiday, and everybody ought to be out, you know, enjoying themselves like we are.
What do you think of the activities out at Pratt Park today?
I think it's fantastic. Been in Prattville all my life, and I love it. Down here every year. Continue coming back. Won't be open for business.
Despite the early morning rains and the threat of showers most of the day, the field is in good shape here at Patterson Field. The Tarpaulians are on home plate and the pitcher's mound at the present time, but the threat of showers seems to be diminished at this point, and the game is on for 7:30 tonight. The series is tied at 1 game apiece after last night's doubleheader in Orlando. The Rebels won the first game 7-1. The Twins came back to take the nightcap, though, 4-3 in 10 innings. We're here with Montgomery manager Les Moss, and Les, I guess you're glad to know that you'll be able to finish the series right here in Montgomery.
Oh, yes, Lee. You know, it's better to be on your home ground anytime.
How does it feel to be the manager of the hottest team in baseball?
Well, I tell you, the men, they've done quite a job for us, let's face it. From June the 23rd till the end of the season, they played 737 ball, and that's something you don't run into very often.
Of course, you've been getting great pitching. Most of the talk has been about Dave Rozema. You're a big pitcher there, but you've got a pitcher going out tonight that has a fine record as well, Frank Harris.
Frank has got a 12-4 record, I'm pretty sure, and he's done an outstanding job for us all year. There's no getting around it. His record could be 15-4 just as easy. He'd come out of a couple 3 ball games in the latter innings and with a tide where we needed a pinch hitter or something. But he could easily be 15-4.
Will you start Rosema if the need arises?
Well, I want to start Rosema on the 5th game, you know, if it's necessary. You know, he had the arm problem early in the year, and I don't want to push anything because he's probably one of the outstanding pitching prospects in the United States right now.
Les, good luck to you. John Valley is standing by right here, too. John, the players seem pretty confident at this point. Dennis DeBar, last night's winner in the first game, said that this game's not going to even be close tonight. How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think any of these games going to be a runaway. He's pitched good against them and everything, but I think not too many playoff games going to be runaway games. They're all pretty close. All the pitchers are throwing good and the hitters are all up, but not too many I really get run away like that. I don't think it will be.
Are you players relaxed at this point?
Yeah, I think we're relaxed. A lot of ball players were here last year. We were in the playoffs and everything. It'll be my second time back. Everyone's a little nervous, I'd say, but it's not where, you know, it's going to affect our play very much.
Okay, John, good luck to you tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the game is still on for 7:30 tonight here at Patterson Field, the 3rd game of this 5-game series. This is Lee Webb with a live mini-cam report at Patterson Field.
Well, Jay, as you can see, the council has just recently finished up with their business. They adjourned about 5 or 6 minutes ago. There were a number of items on the agenda, but the one that generated the most debate was a public hearing on the city's budget. As the council hoped, there was a number of presentations made to it about the budget. Some of them were by the Mental Health Authority and by some city employees who were concerned about the pay raises. There was a presentation made by the Montgomery Firefighters Association and the Fraternal Order of Police. They both presented arguments to the council, and they urged them to increase any increases given to the city employees by more than the allotted $400 across the board. The first one was presented by Cecil Sexton of the Montgomery Firefighters Association.
We, the members of Local 1444, Montgomery Firefighters Association, object to the proposed $400 a year raise. We feel that this is an insult, not a raise. And the figure that we'd like to name to you to look at is $100 a month across the board.
My name is Barney Harding, and I am the President of the State Fraternal Order of Police. My purpose for being here tonight is to take just a few minutes of your time and ask that you reconsider the adoption of the budget and consider additional salaries for the police officer. We feel that he is certainly deserving of the consideration of the members of this council.
Action was only presented tonight. The council only heard these statements. The full action will be taken on the budget next week, Jay. I'm not sure. There are a number of items that people are concerned about. Joe Reed, Councilman Reed, specifically is concerned about such items as the Chamber of Commerce funding so large, and they feel that tonight at the very end of the council, Mr. Reed said that he didn't feel that people acting as private interests, such as the Park Recreation Board, should have so much control over the money. He said he felt that the council should determine priorities, as in listing parks for different sections, and that he felt the council should have more say-so on how the money is spent. So it should be very interesting to see next week if any controls are placed on any funds that the council would appropriate.
At this time.
Thank you, sir.
All right. We will proceed now to public hearing on this budget. Let me get...
It seemed to me to be kind of estimated. I don't believe they intend to do that. They're very honorable people.
They very clearly, Mr. Harris, stated in front of a large assemblage, including their own lodge, that they accepted the responsibility. They accepted it. So
we, the members of Local 1444, Montgomery Firefighters Association, object to the proposed $400 a year raise. We feel that this is an insult, not a raise. And the figure that we'd like to name to you to look at is $100 a month across the board.
My name is Barney Harding, and I am the President of the State Fraternal Order of Police. My purpose for being here tonight is to take just a few minutes of your time and ask that you reconsider the adoption of the budget and consider additional salaries for the police officer. We feel that he is certainly deserving of the consideration of the members of this council.
The guy come before the committee, I didn't allow his figures. I won't allow our own figures. But
no, I don't see how we have any more money to give for raises. But I have no problem with the members of the firefighters and FOP coming before the council, which is their right to speak their piece. But I don't foresee any further money for raises in this budget this year. We've cut it awfully close. We've cut out some things that I think are very necessary.
What things?
Well, we've cut it very close in maintenance. Parks and Recreation was cut very deeply. We added some back tonight, but not nearly as much as we need to. As you know, we had cut a pumper out, but tonight we added that back. There's some other areas of the city dealing with, particularly with equipment and with employees, where we're asking departments to hold back on hiring to save money. So if we have additional money, we're going to have to put it into programs that are ongoing now. And the answer to your question is no, I don't see any more money this year in this budget for the employees.
Do you think the raises are fair? A $400 across-the-board raise is, say, a 3% raise or a percentage raise?
Well, I think you're going to have to distinguish between the percentage raise and the dollar raise. I think you have got to recognize that the 3% raise or percentage raise gives more money to the top echelon employees. And when you go into a store to buy a loaf of bread, as I mentioned here tonight, they don't ask you if you're a garbage worker or if you're a mayor. They ask you for 60 cents for a loaf of bread. So it is far better for the lower paid employees to get a dollar raise. What wasn't mentioned, and I think needs mentioning, is that the merit increase, which amounts to about 5% of a person's salary over a 12-month period, was included in the budget too. In fact, we're giving about $1.5 million in raises this year, and we believe that's as much as we can do. We'd like for it to be more, but you know, the people who work for a living and the taxpayers out there, some 134,000 of them, have needs also, and we're trying to meet those needs and give them the best service possible for the least possible expense. So I think as long as we face it fairly and squarely and above board and do what we can, I think that's the right thing. And I believe that a dollar raise at this particular point is better for the larger number of the employees, the stenos, a lot of the people, than giving dollar raises. Where in the top echelon it means well over $1,000 for some, and just a few hundred for others. But I'd like to give the $400 raise.
For months, there had been unconfirmed reports that there were strained relations between the governor and Mrs. Wallace. First, rumors circulated among staff members and Capitol personnel. And then several weeks ago, a Mobile television station announced that there were strained relations between Governor and Mrs. Wallace.
For more than a week, the existence of the tapes had been denied by Governor George Wallace through Press Secretary Billy Joe Camp. And State Trooper Colonel E.C. Doffett also told us by phone he had no knowledge of the tapes. According to at least 5 reliable sources, at some time during the last several months, Mrs. Wallace was out of town, and security guards found wiretaps on telephones in the second-floor bedroom of Governor Wallace. These sources also told us after the taps were discovered, security men then went to Mrs. Wallace's mansion bedroom and they discovered 200 taped recordings. The recordings were allegedly of conversations between the governor, his top aides, and political advisors. These same sources report the governor went into a rage when he found out about the tapes, and they say threatened to divorce Mrs. Wallace. These same sources say Mrs. Wallace was asked by Governor Wallace to leave the mansion and that they were separated for a time. Throughout last week, we tried repeatedly to see both the governor and Mrs. Wallace. Press Secretary Billy Joe Camp told us the governor would not see us about the matter and denied any knowledge of it. Repeated phone calls to both Governor and Mrs. Wallace throughout last week and over the weekend brought no response. We were told the governor was in a conference and Mrs. Wallace simply did not return our calls. One of our sources say the elaborate taping system cost $4,000 and has been traced to a relative of Mrs. Wallace who allegedly bought the wiretap set up in Birmingham.
All of the principals allegedly involved in this story, Governor Wallace, Mrs. Wallace, Colonel Dothert, and other people deny that anything ever happened inside the mansion, deny ever seeing or knowing of any tapes, and deny that anything ever occurred. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Governor's Mansion. Over the weekend, the men met and came up with a list of what they called 12 grievances. The demands include a 25% increase, starting pay of $2.50 an hour, safety clothing and equipment. The men also want the right to take grievances before the Housing Authority. The maintenance men and laborers are the third group of housing workers reacting to proposed raises for 3 administration workers. One raise totaled $4,000. 2 people are scheduled to receive $7,000 pay hikes. Last week, housing managers and social workers had separate meetings with J.C. Miller, housing administrator, and the controversial raise proposals were the main topics of discussion. They also asked for more money. The maintenance people caucused over the weekend after a scheduled Friday meeting was canceled by Miller, who told them an emergency prevented him from seeing the group. The letter to Miller says the biggest problem facing housing is improper maintenance brought on by lack of supplies and parts to maintenance personnel and low-quality working conditions.
I promised that I would review the demands and get back at them at an early date, possibly in 3 or 4 or 5 days.
Some of the men say that they want $200 clothing allowance, safety clothes, a number of things. Do you feel like their demands were valid?
Well, as I said, I haven't read the demands. I don't know anything about a $200 clothes allowance. We have in the past explored the possibility of a uniform subsidy of some sort for employees. I don't know just how that could work. I favor some type of uniform, and if possible, if the monies were available, and of course the only 2 sources of income that the Housing Authority has is from rent collection and from the federal government. And we've got to increase our rent collections in order maybe to do some of these things.
After today's work shift was over, Miller met with the painters, maintenance men, and laborers. He said that he felt that some of the people should be reclassified and some adjustments should be made as far as salaries and promotions were concerned. He said that he would take their 12 demands and review them. After about a 20-minute meeting with the men where they discussed complaints about job classifications, pay raises, and the lack of supplies, Miller said that he would probably get back with them for another meeting a week from today. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News at the Housing Authority Maintenance Shop.
Norman, we like to think that we've made significant progress in maintaining a reasonable timetable with Judge Johnson's orders. Our prison population has been reduced from roughly 5,200 at the time of the bench order to 3,800. However, we must bear in mind that there are 2,000 awaiting transfer to the Board of Corrections in the various county jails of the state. Should all of these come at one time, we would then have a prison population of roughly 5,800 folks.
Would you be overcrowded then?
We would be overcrowded again. Now, we've added some additional facilities in terms of minimum security barracks, some of them mobile units, somewhat of a trailer complex that we put together. We've added some minimum security by reusing space available at Draper. We have in mind now, and hopefully will act very quickly now, on some other minimum security facilities. These will be simply barrack construction where there's ample sleeping room and ample room for mobility without this close, crowded condition that's really intolerable. The Board of Corrections has felt, as the judge has felt, that overcrowding is just a condition we cannot abide.
At this point, what facility has the worst problem as far as overcrowding is concerned?
I would guess, and this is purely off the top of my head today, that we still have some room to go now at Fountain, which of course is one of our poor institutions, but we've refurbished a great part of it The population is reduced. We've removed the center line of double-deck barracks out of the wards, out of the various dormitories, and we've made a lot of progress, but funding's yet a problem.
How much money do you need, and where can you get it from?
Well, we were given the spending capabilities of $22.5 million roughly by the legislature, yet the cash funding of only $13.5 million, and this is composed of general fund appropriation plus revenue sharing, which means we need to earn about $6.5 million.
Can you earn it?
No, we can't. We can earn a part of it through tag production. We can earn a part of it through agriculture. Now, there was made available to us the legal provision for industry expansion. However, the funds are not available for that expansion, though we have some very significant planning agencies from the United States assisting us in this direction, as we have, of course, the National Clearinghouse for Criminal Justice doing a managerial survey for us. So we feel like we're headed in the right direction, and we've had a lot of support from a lot of folks.
It was a typically dramatic close to what most of the players considered a melodramatic playoff series. The rain had played havoc with the playoff schedule, so both teams viewed tonight's doubleheader as just 2 regular season games. Les, I guess this is really rewarding, a second straight championship here from Montgomery.
Well, I tell you, the player did quite a job. There's no getting around it. There was an outstanding performance from July the 23rd on. The ball club played .737, and that's something you don't see in professional baseball very often.
Very few mistakes out there tonight.
No, there wasn't. We had great pitching. They got the hits when we needed. They did an outstanding job.
You had some good players here last year. That Jason Thompson was an example who went up to the big club. Who do you look as some of the key players off this club next year who could help Evansville possibly or Detroit next year?
Well, I tell you right now, Lee, there's going to be several help Evansville.
How about Detroit?
I hate to mention name, but we're awful young. We may have the youngest ball club in the Southern League right now, and say someone to jump to the big league now, that's kind of pushing it. Some of these players, like a Rosema or a couple of the hitters, could get hot at Evansville next year, and they'd call them up before the year's over. But right now, I'd say about 5 or maybe 6 of these guys will be at Evansville, and maybe more.
We're here with Terry Lynch, whose 2 big plays there in the first game actually won the game for the Rebels, 2-0. Terry, is that the best you've ever played?
No. College I had a lot of good games, but I was very happy tonight. And just, it's great to win.
This is especially rewarding, though, and that to know that this went on to win the championship for you.
Right. First inning, I drove in both runs with a double, and he had a 2-0 coming on me. I knew he was coming to the fastball and put it right down the center of the plate. Just, hit it up the alley. Lucky.
This seemed to be just a regular game to you players out there. Of course, the rain had a lot to do with it, I'm sure, but you went out just like it was a regular game.
I think everybody's wanted to win the game, but mostly a lot of players want to get home. It's been a long season, and we just, everybody in the team was just really loose, and, it was great. No one, we didn't make any errors, I don't think, the whole playoff, which was great.
Of course, you've had a great year defensively as well as offensively. Do you think you'll be at Evansville next year? What's for you next year?
I'll have to wait and see. I'm going to winter ball, so, wait and see how I do down there. But right now, my plans, I'll probably be back in Montgomery.
Okay. Gary Christensen, the winner of the second game, the winning pitcher for the Montgomery Rebels in the second game. Gary, were you pleased with your performance?
Yes, I felt good all night, right from the first inning. I thought I had my good stuff, threw mostly fastballs, but got away with it because we got a lead. I was concentrating on getting the ball over the plate once we got ahead.
Well, we were just talking to Terry about the nervousness, the emotional pace of the game. Seemed just like a regular game to him. How about to you?
Well, tried to hide it. I was nervous before the game. Of course, I'm nervous before every game, but when I got out there and started throwing, I went away. Felt good.
Were you nervous about pitching against Orlando? They've got some big hitters. How do they compare to the rest of the league?
Well, they've got good hitters. I've always had pretty good success against them, which is important. It's good for your confidence. I was real confident out there, but they're just about the best team we face. Defensively, they make very few mistakes, so you have to beat them. They don't beat themselves.
And they came back in that second game down there in Orlando.
Yes, they came back. We played good ball, but they stuck right with us and beat us at the end on a home run in the last inning.
What's for you next year? Do you think you'll be back in Montgomery, Evansville, where?
Well, I don't know. It was a good ending to a bad season. I started up in AAA and wasn't very successful up there, but I come down here and I had a real good time on top of having a pretty good time down here. I played pretty good ball, I thought.
Great. So the Montgomery Rebels swept both games tonight from the Orlando Twins, winning the first game 2-0, the second game 6-2. This is Lee Webb, WSFA TV Sports.
check it out because I might have to go, and I'm gonna have one built from over there, over here, where they can come over here instead of me going over there.
That's a good idea.
If one were to start coming, I don't know where I could get over there or not fast enough. But Red Madison would be safe.
No, the writing folks are set. The electronic people ready yet? You ready? Too fast. They're ready anytime.
I haven't written anything out here. I just have to. I'll tell them I read it already now. You know, being in politics is very difficult, and that's been all over the years, and of course it's been more difficult since I was shot in Maryland in 1972. But I do know that I've been listening to the stories and reading in the paper about the various statements about separation, and myself and my wife, and the time that it was talked about, my wife happened to be in Florida with my daughter Lee. I appreciate very much what she did for me when I was shot in Maryland, which was about as much as the doctors did, and they will admit that themselves. You know, on the recent matters that were involved, I would say that there were some tapes and a device, purely domestic, all that was involved. No one has been harmed, no one has been hurt, none of them in existence. This happened in my bedroom between me and my wife. What happens between me and my wife, as long as it doesn't affect the state of Alabama, for my service as governor, remains the business of my wife and myself. There have been some alluding to the fact that politics were involved. There were no politics involved at all. Anyone who thinks that, they just have to think it. I do know that talk about my wife possibly running for office. Well, I don't know that she is, and I don't really think so, but if she does, I would be for her as strong as I was my first wife. So it's difficult to solve domestic matters under all the trying circumstances, especially if you are in politics. And I think we can better resolve what differences we might have, if any, by the press, them accepting what I'm saying, that this was purely domestic matter and nothing else. No one has been harmed, no one has been offended, and that's that. I will say that Colonel Dothert, in stating that because he did not have he was not first-hand knowledge of anything in the beginning, and when the alluding to the fact that there were politics involved, of course, that received a heated denial, I'm sure, from many people, because there was no political motive involved. That's that. Ain't any question for you to ask. That covered it all. Okay?
Governor, what type of device exactly was found?
I have covered the matter, and that's irrelevant. I've covered the matter, and that's it. Anything else? Now, if you folks in the press would leave us alone in our domestic matters, which it was purely domestic matter, we'll solve it a lot quicker. I appreciate the fact that my wife has done much for me since I was
ill and all the alluding to her. Political motives, I want to say that I resent it myself because it's not true. That got it. Okay?
Thank you.
Just had the high school tell me about